In deciding on my hammer bore, and just for my information, I employ a large protractor to find out where the strings are in their flare angles. In the base section, it is 15 degrees. Let's go along the front of the stretcher, and I can see that it's pretty close to 15 throughout. It actually becomes slightly less as you go up into the single, so it ranges from 14 to 15. In the tenor, in the other direction of course, 17 degrees. That's where we start. 17 degrees is not achievable. And then it goes down to 10 degrees. And then it starts at 9 degrees here, goes down to 5 at the break, and down to 0 at note 88. So the entire piano is flared. And that gives me a decision to make in terms of hammer filing, but I think I will file all the hammers at my drill press. So I'm checking my samples, and there's only one that you can see with the camera at all clearly, and that is this first tenor note, note 30. So I'm just going to show you as best I can that it has a little more drop than I need, but apart from that, the let off is in exactly the right place. And anyway, the same for the other ones. So we're in business. As my starting point, I'm going to hang the hammers, and then I will space in the piano, create my spacing scale for my regulation. So in terms of setting up the squaring platform and the action, the keys are off being rebushed and balance holes repaired. So I'm going to hang the hammers just on the bench. These are my shims for the key frame. I'm leaving them in place. These were the stops for the key frame. I'm leaving them in place. These are the stops for the side of the action. They're in place, and actually this top stack is pretty flush to the outside of its key frame, so it makes a side-to-side constraint. I've repurposed what were the stops for the regulating rack at strike. So I've flipped them off, peeled off the tape, put new tape on, and I've fixed the backwards direction of the action stack, and found some scrap maple that I've placed so that it fixes the forward motion. So now my stack is fixed in place, and I cut strips of Avery labels 32 a page, about 1/8 of an inch thick, wide, in preparation for traveling, which comes first. I have change your perspective just a little here. I have clamped down the squaring platform at a place where the tip of the shank starts at the bottom of the shank traveler and comes up through. I'm going to actually do it from the other side because the light is good to see the black of this and the silver of that against the brown of the. You could always put a piece of paper underneath it or something to improve the visibility. When the action is in place, I generally work from this side, but without the keys and keyframe, it works well from that side. And I slide along from place to place. Now for, that is for the traveling part. For the squaring to vertical part, I extend, and this was part of the calculation as to where to put this, out far enough so that when I push this all the way in, it is at the actually it could go in a little bit further. Because what I want is right down the center axis of the hammer. Yep, it'll be right there. And check it on the first 10 hammer, my other sample, and that works out well too. So all the way there works for my squaring, and all the way here works for my travel. The other thing about the squaring is that for flared hammers, you really want to square them to vertical at strike. If you square them halfway, that might be best for clearance, but it means that they'll be tilted at strike, which is a strategy if you have not enough room and you have to tilt. Well, you know, if you have a 16-degree flare, or if I had made these match the flare of the strings were a flare of 15 degrees in the bass and 17 degrees in the tenor. And those definitely would have had clearance problems side to side. And the hammers that were on it had this 10 degree in the bass, 10 degree starting off in the tenor. And I decided to go with that. Other things about those hammers were wrong, but I assume that the flare hammers, you know, that they took the flare off of the old hammers, and they got other things about it wrong, but that was approximately right. And so, in a Steinway, for instance, they typically cut the flare in half in the bass, and it gives a part of the Steinway sound. Anyway, this divides it, takes a third off of it, and I start with the 10 degrees here, and I've measured the flare goes from 17 degrees to 10 degrees, so I made them all 10, and it starts with 9 here and goes to 5, and then 5 to 0. So my whole set of hammers is flared, and normally I would have straight board treble sections, which I would file on my squaring platform, gang file them. But because these are flared, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to file them all at my hammer hanging jig so that, well, these have been filed, and I'll give you a close-up look at them to see that, if I can show you, you know, how nice they are. Let's see, where are you? There you are. It does a very nice job anyway. Okay, so I'm ready to do my traveling, which happens first because traveling affects both squaring and spacing. Then I do my squaring, and I do it with hammer square, so that at strike my hammers will be vertical. This simplifies power transfer, repetition, and improves the voicing. So here's my strategy.